Welcome to the Smart Driving Cars podcast. We are glad you are with us. This edition is sponsored by the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF, symbol MOTO. For more information, head to motoetf.com. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alain Kornhauser. Good evening, Alain.
Hey, good evening, Fred.
There is big news to talk about in New Jersey this week. Governor Murphy announced Monday that the state is putting out a request for expressions of interest, an RFEI, for companies to submit informative proposals to the State Department of Transportation to design, build, and operate an electric-powered self-driving transit system using minibus-type vehicles. This would be in the city of Trenton with an eye toward expansion. Our listeners and viewers have heard you talking about the need for this for a long time. The significance, Alan.
Well, the significance is that while we might have been chatting about this on I don't know how many of our 250 podcasts and Zoomcasts that we've done here, Fred, and of course the whole last summit was kind of focused as a run-up to this kind of thing. What it means is that, somebody of some responsibility here in New Jersey wants to do this. I mean,
that somebody happens to be the guy at the very top and a bunch of people underneath him. So it's really been a team effort that you've been involved in, and the city of Trenton has been involved in. And now that you've come to the point where you're making something happen.
Right. And I was at the Florida AV conference last week, and of course, one of the presenters showed a slide that basically had columns of states in the U.S. and rows of things pertaining to, automated vehicles and driverless vehicles, whether they are permitted to be operating there, doing testing or beginning and whatever. So they had check boxes for each one of the states of these things, and of course California basically had all the boxes checked. Arizona, all the boxes checked. Florida, well, it was a Florida AV conference. Florida better have all the boxes checked because otherwise Jeff wouldn't have been too happy. No, I'm only being. And Pennsylvania had a few. Michigan had a few. Mississippi had one. Like we're thinking about it. I don't know, the easiest box to check. And tied with Mississippi on that chart was New Jersey. That was last week. This week, with this announcement, the way I look at it, New Jersey's in the lead for deployment. I mean, who cares about testing? Okay. The issue is okay, run them, do some testing, great. But the objective is deployment, such that, at some point we start getting some societal value out of the 100 billion or whatever that's been invested in this technology. So I guess the first 100 billion was to do the testing, great. But how about, a couple shekels here, and let's do some deployment so that, some people who can really benefit and improve their lives through mobility that this has the opportunity to offer. And quoting the governor, to lead to the deployment of safe, equitable, affordable, and maybe I'm paraphrasing what he means by affordable, but affordable is on the cost side. Because if the costs are low, then whatever you need to put in as a public subsidy to get it even lower to really be affordable on the price side is small. But my goodness, if the cost side is up here, to get it down here to the affordable piece on the price side, which is really what is important, you've got to make up this big gap. And of course, the reason why, in New Jersey, we don't have Ubers or Lyfts or DDs providing mobility for everybody is because their costs are so high. Because a chauffeur costs a lot of money, even a gig chauffeur. And how many people are willing to work for nothing to bring that price down, the cost down, so that you can, afford to subsidize it in perpetuity? You might be able to do it for a week, for a month, for a year, or whatever. Great, nice test. Then you run out of money if the cost is high. So the affordable piece is really important. Affordable on the cost side, because then you can afford to subsidize it so that the price side, you can serve even poor people or economically challenged people, or however you want to call them.
So let's
so it's safe, equitable,
right.
affordable, sustainable, of course, is important too. I mean, we don't want to screw up the planet.
Let's lay out the vision here of what we're
talking about. But one more,
about.
let me do one more. But it has to be high quality mobility. It can't be, a bus that runs who knows what and has a Sunday schedule, Saturday schedule, no schedule between so and so and so and so and so and so. What's the matter with, current transit? Except for, New York and Chicago, I think, are the only two transit systems in the nation that operate 24/7. What happens if you're working the night shift someplace? Because that's the only job you can get that pays you so that you can put some food on the table. How do you get to the job? So in a sense, the words that at least I read, the words that the governor has here, they're all fundamentally important. They're really important. So it has to be safe, not vision zero. Hey, if I want to be perfectly safe, I'll stay here. I won't go anywhere. Because I like to also say, hey, if my house burns down and I die because my house burned down, I should have been out there on Route 1. I would have been safer on Route 1. Come on.
So let's
to
paint
get
this
it to
picture,
a point.
Alan.
Let me. I really want to.
Okay.
I want to
Yes,
make sure. I mean, for some reason, as I read the stuff that is out there, what are they? I mean, they're not focused on the safe, the equitable. The equitable. Really, the purpose of doing new mobility is to be better for some folks than what they already have. Now, if you want to provide mobility that's better than what I already can provide for myself, I don't know when that technology is going to be available. You're not going to do it out of the box because of what I have, the wherewithals to provide for myself. Because I happen to be a lucky white guy who's had all the opportunities of the best education, the best, but somebody who, hasn't been as fortunate as me, my goodness, they should have mobility opportunities the same way that I have mobility opportunities, I think. And so the equity piece is really important. The governor put it out there. And the affordable and the sustainable and the high quality. The high quality is on demand. I mean, I roll out of my kitchen hump and on my car anytime, almost. Go to wherever I want to go, almost. Whew. Because I provided and I've had the wherewithal to provide it for myself. somebody who, only has this much, and some of it needs to go to providing a roof over their head and some clothes and some food on the table, maybe some toys for their kids. There isn't much left. So, I mean, and we have technology. I mean, the key, and I think what the governor gets, and I certainly don't want to speak for the governor here, but what he gets is with this technology, oh my goodness, much of the expense, much of the challenges of being able to put out there opportunities for mobility for people to have high quality mobility, that's safe, that's sustainable, is because you have a computer doing the driving. And that computer doesn't have a family to feed, doesn't need bathroom breaks, doesn't need to be able to relax and take its mind off of what's going on, which are very important functions. But oh my goodness, you have the opportunity to do this affordably. If you can do it affordably, then everybody can have it. I think that's what the governor has seen in this. And so the opportunity here is to lead.
Alan, right. So this would be a first, using the technology where it's really needed. And we've talked about that before. But paint a little picture for us what this might look like. I know we just asked for proposals. What might it look like?
Yeah, but let me, even before that, I testified yesterday at the New Jersey Assembly on some legislation to, make sure that some testing can be done in New Jersey too, but focused on deployment, because this initiative is focused on deployment, on doing deployment. And when the governor in his statement says here he's being modest, it says in there that this would be the first in the nation. That's modesty by him. It's first in the world. We haven't talked here about anybody else doing this kind of thing anywhere else in the world. I haven't seen it discussed anywhere else in the world. People are talking about driverless cars for rich people, sure. Maybe in Chandler, maybe, 70% of the households have 2 or more cars. No wonder it's, nobody's clamoring out to, I mean, never mind. People will get angry with me. Yes, now back to your question. That is what is so darn monumental about, at least I see in this announcement. The governor of New Jersey has come out and leading the world to do it in his state capital with what I claim, what you can read, just read it. It says the commissioner of DOT, New Jersey DOT, is on board with this. The mayor of Trenton is on board with this. On Wednesday, I was meeting with the superintendent of schools. I mean, totally on board. Met with the religious leaders, the business leaders, the public safety people on board.
And these people will have a say in the community, will have a say in shaping this.
In the community, we're involved in community, our community involvement. Where was I? We're down in the public housing, knocking on doors, talking to people. Where would you like to be able to go when? We don't say, hey, here's some bling. Here's some LiDARs and computers. No, that's an enabler. That's some bling to get them to deliver mobility here. What's the fundamental value of mobility? Time and place utility improvement of the individual. It's the only reason anybody goes any place. They go to that place at that time. Why? Because they believe they will be better off by being there than staying where they were. Otherwise, you wouldn't go. But you have to have the opportunity. The harder, the more expensive relative to what you have to go, the less you're going to take advantage of the places where you could really improve your quality of life. Fundamental economics, the first 5 minutes of a lecture, of the first lecture of transportation, not 101, transportation 0.000001. This is what this does. And New Jersey, I'm so proud of it, has come out and is saying, my goodness, we're going to take all this, we're going to try to get those that have invested so hard in all this technology to please come here to New Jersey and improve the quality of lives of our citizens, and most importantly, the quality of lives of the citizens who, really could use it the most. Wow. The substance that is in this thing is like phenomenal.
So let's tell these companies and our audience the next steps here and what this might look like for, and of course this is generalized right now.
Yeah, of course. It's a process. As we've talked about here, I don't know how many times, we wanted to build a welcoming environment in New Jersey for this concept. And that welcoming environment requires, as we've discussed, requires the governor, the commissioner, the mayor, the police chief, the faith person, and so on, all the way up to the neighborhoods, to the public housing buildings and whatever, all the way up there. And if one has that welcoming for this, and saying, oh my goodness, then maybe those that have done all the investment in here will decide to come here and share that technology with us. And finally begin to capture some value out of the investment. Today, essentially no value has been captured. We've had a few people run around Chandler. We have GM Cruise employees riding around in San Francisco. Else, no. Okay. We have some people that claim they do it, but they all have attendance on board.
Well, there will initially be some attendance here too.
Of course you have to begin. Of course you have to begin. But that piece of the deployment initiative has to say, hey, as soon as we can get out of having attendance, that's when we can finally have affordability of this thing, so that it can continue. Otherwise, we're going to run out of money.
So the governor and the state are asking for proposals by really just a few months from now, right?
Right. So, I think the concept, and is what's laid out, again, you can read it. There's no fluff here. As I read it, looks to me very substantive. It says, yes, we'd like to know who's interested in trying to do this kind of thing, and let us know. And then at some point, we're going to put out a request. This is them, we are going to put out a request for proposal from the private sector to do a private-public partnership. In other words, partner up with representatives of New Jersey, whatever that might end up being, to then do this and put it out there. And the reason why, at least I think, I'm maybe reading a little bit between the lines, the reason why it's a public-private partnership is it's not just like, hey, like Uber, came in the cities and said, lawyer up. Or people brought in scooters and places and said, we're putting scooters out there. What I think this says, and hopefully I'm not, putting words in people's mouths that are responsible here. Who am I? I'm a professor at some backwater institution. I mean, really, but what they're saying is that come here and let's do a partnership. And that partnership is the reason why the public wants to be involved, is that we want to make sure that one's really trying to do the equity piece. One wants to make sure that you are safe. Not perfectly safe, but safe enough, which is extremely difficult concept to put together. That you do provide high quality mobility. I think I've liked to say on here, at least, whatever my definition, not that my definition should matter on high quality mobility, but, one looking to do 24/7, 350. And, so what's irked us and what we've discussed, I don't know how many times on these podcasts, is some people are out there and say, we have to do 365.25. We have to be able to go through fog, deep snow, torrential rains. Bull. I mean, if it has to be perfectly safe, go through fog, torrential downpours, deep snow, forget about it. I'm going to go play golf. I'm going to sit here and, I don't play computer games, so I can't even play computer. We'll sit here and chat. What can I tell you?
Well,
but
that's
point
ridiculous. The point
is,
is when we can't drive, the system will not be out there. It's as simple as
so.
That, pretty much.
I should not be driving either a 55 Chevy or whatever the greatest, or a Tesla with full self-driving in fog.
Right.
I mean, come on. Or in snow that's whatever. Wait until the snowplow gets out there and removes it. Or in Atlanta, when it's 30 degrees and it's just rained. And there's black ice out there on the road. I mean, we watch the news reports every winter. Ooh, look at how crazy Atlanta is. Cars smashed up all over the place. People thought they could drive on black ice. I mean, come on. Stay home. Relax.
Well, an interesting thing, Alan, you had your students do some presentations investigating other Trenton type scenarios or situations, and you got some surprising and interesting feedback, right?
Wow. I mean, we've gone through COVID this semester, and at times it hasn't been as pretty as it could have been. I mean, people wearing masks, whatever, and I became a little depressed that maybe it's the amount of engagement that I got out of my class. We had this morning, we had final what I call the or 467 final report symposium, where they basically make presentations of the analyses and investigations that they've done. And so this year we basically, we're doing villages, their surrounding counties, and surrounding states. So basically looking as a concept that we've discussed here, with a Trenton, you basically start in a village and you get the darn thing to work, and then you grow it from there. Your operational design domain grows from the village to the county, in some sense to the state. So they went, and the assignment was to basically do that for various places around the country. So, and what the students were supposed to do was either start with a village being their hometown, start with a census block where they live, grow to a village, like a 10 square mile village around that, and then grow to the state or the county, and then grow to the state. and look at that under several different market penetrations and what kind of ridership would you end up getting throughout the day, and estimating fleet sizes and actually simulating the movement of the vehicles and looking at occupancies and ride sharing and all the other stuff that goes with all that thing. And oh my goodness, I don't know, I must have had low expectations because I was just floored by the quality of the work that they did, and the investigations in places. I mean, one student is from Eden Prairie, Minnesota, did that one. Another one is from Mobile, Alabama. I mean, you realize there are pockets of some really poor neighborhoods and villages in Mobile, Alabama. Not surprising. And starting the service there and so on, and expanding it out. Morgantown, West Virginia, one student chose Morgantown, West Virginia. Why? Because of the PRT system that sits there has 6 stations, but starting there and growing it out and looking at impacts, fleet sizes, all sorts of things, average vehicle occupancies, efficiencies, and so on. Prince George's County in Maryland. You have any idea what the income distribution looks like there versus, Northwest Washington, D.C., the gentrified area that many of those people that now live in Prince George's County used to live and were, I guess, sent to? They weren't sent there, but I guess that's the only, never mind. I don't know how they migrated there. A most interesting one in Arizona, where a student decided to take a look at what if the village is an Indian reservation? What does this improved mobility concept mean with respect to mobility opportunities and for the people that live there, people as described by the U.S. Census, as compared to Chandler? I was blown away. And they did this, and I couldn't have been more proud, but I guess I fed them the Kool-Aid. I thought they were drinking it just to get a grade. And I mean, my goodness, the only person that might have done it better is Governor Murphy. I mean, whoa. So I've had a good week, Fred.
Well, here's my cup of Kool-Aid right here.
Man, I mean, it was so good. Honolulu, you should see what the opportunities are in the Big Island, and the fact, and I mean, a lot of people on that Big Island, a lot of families don't have access to that many cars. I mean, I guess who goes to the hotels and makes the beds and cleans the rooms and anyway,
hopefully we're going to be able to show some of this down the road.
We taped some, they turn in the final reports on Dean's Date on Monday, and we'll link them up and put them in the newsletter, and people can take a look at it.
Sounds terrific. We'll be back with more, but first, this is a good time to remind you about our sponsor, the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF, symbol MOTO. To get more info, you can head to motoetf.com. On the website, look for a white paper. It's called The Smart Transportation Revolution. It's under the Insights and News tab. Some great information there to help you make informed decisions. You may know that ETFs can be a good way to spread risk with investments, maybe focus on a particular category of stocks. The website, once again, is motoetf.com. We're back with more of Smart Driving Cars. Alan, we want to get into some headlines.
Yeah, I think maybe before that, if I can, I don't think I quite answered your question as to where all this might be going. Again,
I just didn't know if you didn't want to get into it, but I was just trying to paint a picture of what this might look like.
Sure, and what the might look like, I think the governor spelled it out in his press release. I mean, the idea is to really do on-demand mobility kiosk to kiosk. It's not door to door, it's kiosk to kiosk. I guess at least to me, the academic reason to do that is that allows people to walk just a short distance, sort of show up just like they do at an elevator bank, and maybe share an elevator, share a vehicle. I mean, if it's picking me up at my kitchen, it's only going to take me. And if it has to stop at your kitchen door to take you, I'm going to say, what are you doing? I want to get to where I want to go.
And we're talking like about 100 vehicles and all at the outset.
And so we're talking, I mean, the thought is basically the way that the operational design domains that I've looked at, that may end up being looked at, are basically, some of the having a 50 kiosks, in other words, local, you can call them bus stops, but we call them kiosks because the concept has been that these would be designed by the neighborhood. I mean, I just think myself, if there's going to be a kiosk in my neighborhood, I don't want you designing it, Fred. I want us who live here to design it to be what we would appreciate, what we would protect, what we would cherish for us. And I think each one of the 50 neighborhoods in Trenton is only 8 square miles, and so that basically puts one of these things within less than a 5-minute walk of every place in Trenton. So you show up at one place, there are vehicles waiting there, or there's one that will arrive soon and sort of waits around. I don't know. We through the students do all kinds of different departure delays from 1 minute to 5 minutes to 10 minutes to see what kind of opportunities for ride sharing that might exist of other people showing up wanting to go to the same place. And ride sharing is somewhat important because that helps on the affordability. If this thing is going to be sustained for for a while, it has to be affordable. And affordable means, and it means that the operator will have an opportunity to make a profit. And the governor, when you read this, the governor called this transit. His words. Oh my goodness. I mean, this is the concept of having transit is what? Somebody else providing mobility for me using ground transportation. It's not a bus necessarily. Otherwise, I provide my mobility for myself. If I hop on my scooter and go scooting, that's not transit. If I hop on my bicycle, that's not transit. If I walk, that's not transit. If I drive my car, it's a truck or whatever, it's not transit. But if somebody else is operating this thing, I mean, to me, taxi company is transit. Somebody's providing mobility for me. Uber, Lyft, or transit. They're providing mobility for me. New Jersey Rail on the corridor is transit. New Jersey buses, I hop on, there's a bus driver, takes me. That's transit. A driverless vehicle coming by, being parked there, I hop on, it takes me, I get out, it goes and does it for you, for somebody else. That's transit. He called it transit. I agree with him.
Terrific. And Alan, I know you don't want to personally take any credit for this as the governor's move and all that, but as a leading advocate for this type of thing, I think some congratulations are in order here.
Well,
that's personal.
No. I mean, yeah. I certainly preach this. But I mean, he's gone beyond my preaching, and I don't know to what extent he heard it, didn't hear it, or whatever. But I don't think he just goes out and willy-nilly. I don't think the Commissioner of Transportation does it willy-nilly. I don't think Reed, Mayor of Trenton, does it willy-nilly. I mean, I think I think through their own processes have looked at this and said, "Oh my goodness!" Not what is needed here is that for those who have spent so much time and effort since the DARPA challenges to try to get this from a testing environment to a deployment environment. I think they should take New Jersey seriously. This is a this is an opportunity to take that investment and deliver a societally valuable business product. And I think, and I believe what Adam Jonas says, that, hey, there's money to be made here. Certain people are going to need a subsidy. Yes. A lot of other people that are providing this mobility for themselves may end up looking at this, oh my goodness. Instead of taking the stairwell, I'm going to take the elevator. Instead of leave my car at home. Or, just put another one on the mantle up here. I mean, that's what many of them are for. I mean, they're mantle pieces. Use this to get around. And sure, whatever it costs, how much do I have to pay for a Starbucks latte? Jeez, if you're willing to pay for a latte, maybe you're willing to be chauffeured and, just hop out. I mean, at that kind of revenue level, all of a sudden you're delivering value to as a business rather than value as a flip. It's got to be. I mean, that's investors have to like that, I think.
Well, we're on the move, finally.
We're on the move, and we call it Trenton Moves. And Trenton Moves, why is it moves? Is because because really wanted to have that equity piece in there. The equity piece, I mean, one looks at what's being invested in electric vehicles, and probably the toughest thing about electric vehicles and all the public investment that's going in electric vehicles is this, there's even an article in the New York Times yesterday or whatever, again, saying who's going to be the ones that are going to get the most subsidy benefit out of all the subsidy that's going in electric vehicles. Guess what? It's the same people that got all the value out of all the investment in roadways. People like me. And the people that, if you're poor, you're not going to be able to get a kickback or whatever they call it. If you get an electric vehicle, you don't have enough money to get an electric vehicle. You can't benefit from getting free electricity. Can't benefit from not paying, road use taxes. The rich get richer.
Well, let's move along to some headlines quickly here. Reuters has a report saying Waymo risks losing its lead in the U.S. race to prove robo taxis are a viable business. I think this is what we've been talking about.
Absolutely, I think. And it's great that Waymo went and tested in Chandler. I mean, you got to get this thing to work in the easy places first. And I guess, at least I think, that Trenton is actually an easy place for this to work. Because if you look at kind of the places where we looked at where you might locate the 50 kiosks and have roadways to interconnect them all so that you can go directly between any of them, the network and so on, they're all local roads.
And you've pointed out before, and we've had on the podcast here, that making the point that Waymo was the first, and I guess still is the only one out there without a driver at all on board on many vehicles, providing transportation. That's a huge step that they were willing to take, that their technology was ready for it. And now the invitation is open for hopefully them to look at what you're doing here in New Jersey, et
Well, I
cetera.
would hope they would, apparently have looked at a lot of different states, or at least you go through their website. They don't really talk to me. So I don't really know. I just look at what's publicly available. They claim they've been, I don't know, 25 states. They're in New Jersey, actually. But they're parking their vehicles in Jersey that they use to go out there and map Manhattan. So I guess they're really interested in doing Manhattan and don't really care about New Jersey. And okay, fine. Maybe we'll find somebody else. In a sense, we only need one. And it's an invitation to all, and there'll be a process, and there'll maybe a competition, but maybe Waymo should take us seriously, because I think we have customers for them. Customers that will appreciate them and get them started, so that it doesn't just seem to not be going anywhere. As the I didn't write that article, I just read it, that one that right. It suggests that they've been doing it out there. I don't know how long, but they've been driverless at least a year, haven't they? We should go back and check.
Sure.
Okay, and in a year, you would think that you're on some sort of hockey stick. And right. If they were in a hockey, they don't really have to tell us. It's their business. They don't have to I don't know. They're not looking for investors. They have enough money themselves, so that, they don't have to go tell anybody if things are going great. But you would think that somebody would be reporting. Holy mackerel. There's there used to only be this many. Now there are so many more, and I used to have to wait so long to whatever, and now it's much lower. And because they were out there, and there are all kinds of people, and my goodness, when I got in, and I got in with somebody else, and we were ride sharing, we went together, and I actually took me, and my goodness, I can, and it's gone beyond being an amusement ride with bling. But I don't know. I haven't seen those. I'm sure I'll be deluged by comments.
Well, I hope so, and we would love for them to come on with us and talk more about it.
We would love for them. We've invited them a number of times,
right?
But there are others out there that are working on this. Maybe
Absolutely.
they'll see this, what we think that we've created, or what I think the governor thinks that's been created here, is a field of dreams. Okay, and that they will come. And they'll see this as an opportunity, because while the equity piece implies that hey, maybe we in New Jersey are going to have to contribute some to go from a affordable cost to a really affordable price. But that affordable cost allows a lot of other people who are more than willing to pay for a good latte here, and allow them to earn a profit. Supposedly, they're building businesses.
Moving on. Russ Mitchell at the LA Times has a report talking about the surge in car crash deaths during the pandemic. We've talked about this too. The report says the latest evidence suggests that after decades of safety gains, the pandemic has made U.S. drivers more reckless, speeding, drinking, drugs, and even not using seatbelts. Pretty disturbing report.
Yeah, and really disturbing, and I'm glad Russ, has picked up on it and put it out there, because I think, I don't know, it's, to me, we've ended up on this podcast calling this misbehavior. Okay, and I know every once in a while I misbehave out there on the road, and as you can, I at times rant and rave about stuff. You can imagine what I must be like. I don't know. My wife probably doesn't want, wishes she was driving, and I don't know, whatever. But just from my little part of the world, and the speeds out there these days on at least New Jersey roadways is like, whoa. And, I have some friends in the state police that I talk to and so on. And, they really don't want to pull anybody over for obvious reasons. Okay. And so maybe, some folks are kind of taking advantage of this and getting a little bit ahead of themselves. And when that stuff starts to unravel, guess what? You have what Russ is writing about in that article. And, and of course, the other thing that we've discussed here, not only the kind of safe, equitable, affordable, high quality mobility, but it's the orthogonal to that, the perpendicular is the automated driver assistance systems and so on. And I think it really is valuable. Some of those things, we need some of them, especially the automated emergency braking systems. So when somehow you get a little bit ahead of yourself and you get yourself into, between that rock and that hard place, that this stuff bails you out. And it was interesting to watch last night while I'm watching the football game. GM had some commercials out there talking about their system now. Their street pilot, or I think whatever they call it. Equivalent to the autopilot of Tesla, except it monitors you and makes sure that you behave, which is really great. They're now offering in some things other than the Cadillac C6 or whatever it was, and through more of their
So rebranded Super Cruise type
this
thing?
rebrand Super Cruise is what it's called.
Right.
And of course, I don't really agree with the way they do commercials because now everybody's making it's a big thing to have your hands off and whatever, and they're clapping and all that stuff. That's fine, but what the real value of that is hopefully allow you to relax, not be as tense when you're driving, and in the places where you really should be applying the brakes, it goes and applies the darn brakes so you don't crash. And most of it is, with respect to applying brakes, it's not, throttle, steer around as if you're a Formula One, whatever. Anyway, but that's good news that they're doing that. The other car companies are really they're taking a strong interest in this. And the other thing that I guess was announced is that Intel might spin off Mobileye as a separate company.
Yeah, they're looking to go take Mobileye public.
They're looking to take Mobileye public, and I think I would suspect that the business opportunity is because the technology stack that Mobileye offers is really an advanced driver assistance stack for the OEMs to put in their cars that they sell to us.
Right.
And I guess we're more than willing to pay for it. Those of us that can afford it.
Along those lines, VIA is now valued at $3.3 billion after its latest funding round as well. So there's a lot of value being seen at.
Yeah, there's value. I mean, it's amazing that a transit company is being valued at, almost car manufacturer's value. I mean, that's like amazing. Now, of course, there's a comment in there that they do autonomous vehicles, which is they may well do autonomous vehicles in the future, but they're not doing autonomous vehicles. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if autonomous vehicles means driverless vehicles without an attendant, which is the way a driverless vehicle with an attendant why would you pay for the technology? You might as well just have the attendant drive.
Right.
I mean, unless you think that
Maybe they'll do it in Trenton. That would.
Yeah, no, but it has to be focused, I think, on getting the point in which you don't need the attendant. And in the beginning, and I think, for Trenton, you need the attendant to get the riders acclimated to this.
Right.
When they first opened up the automated people mover at Newark Airport, there was always an attendant there on each of the vehicles. Why? So the people wouldn't freak out. There's no driver here. They pulled them out of there. Now maybe there might be an attendant, somebody to help people at each one of the stations. There's so many people there, you can afford to have an attendant.
Well, as you often like to point out, there used to be attendants on elevators. You don't see them anymore.
You don't see them anymore, but I think I just looked it up recently. I think there's still 7,000 elevator operators, and there's I think Elevator Operators Union or something like that. I think their peak, I may have the numbers there off the top of my head. I think their peak was in number of personnel or members was in 1945 or something like that at 14,000, but their membership has only been cut in half.
I don't know when the last time I saw one was, but
yeah, well, they used to have one in Tiffany's. At one point, I went into Tiffany's in New York. I guess I had to up my game, and they had them in Tiffany's, and they do have them. I think they have them at the Empire State Building and so on, and some places they have elevator attendants there. Why? In places where there's extremely high volume of riders, there's some. But geez, if you had to pay one in a tenement building, I mean, you couldn't have tenement buildings higher than 5 or 6 floors.
Right. Moving on, robotic research has raised $228 million to build out commercial autonomous offerings. This is a company that's previously been working mostly, I think, with the military.
Yeah, I think they have the lion's share of the market with military, and as the article suggests, that they're going into the more the public part of this, and congratulations. I think this is their first round of financing. So I think they've been in business something like 19 years or something like that, whatever that number is, but more than a few. And I think this is their first. They've done otherwise purely with their customers' money, which I think, to me, is the way to build a business. I mean, in the companies I've had, I've never been able to raise a nickel. So, had to be the customers to pay for it. So, but I'm not good with the venture capitalists.
Well, moving on again, Alan, Tesla is selling a fleet of hundreds of Model 3 cars to the city of New York. All EVs, obviously. That's all Tesla does.
Yeah, I think, congratulations. I mean, that's again, they did the Hertz thing. They did the, New York thing. They seem to be hitting it on all cylinders, Fred.
And more factories coming online very shortly, it seems.
Yeah. Moved their headquarters from California to Texas, apparently, or I think they announced that recently. Right. And hey, great. Yes.
But all isn't a bed of roses there. Tesla is being looked at again by NHTSA for enabling in-car video games while driving. And you got to scratch your head. What are they thinking, right?
I mean, I think, when Apple CarPlay, first started to be put in the cars, and they're, really, I mean, how much distracting entertainment are you going to put in a car that usually only has one person in it, the driver? It should be focused on driving. instead of watching that stuff. Now, when I was basically pioneering the development of turn-by-turn navigation, we wanted to put a map up with driving directions. We were always afraid that here, we need to put a screen in a car, why, to be able to display the map so that you could see the turns easily at a glance, boom, a couple of cognitive cycles. And hopefully you've looked ahead far enough in the road ahead, so in a couple of cognitive cycles, you're not going to go, crash into stuff, and be able to get information at a glance off of a screen. So we have all this great software that does this and shows this and so on and so forth, and put in screens in cars. What do people do? They start watching videos. Boom.
And they can't make the screens big enough right now.
And then so people are watching videos, and you can't, if you can get all the information in a video in a couple cognitive cycles and then focus back on your driving, then you'd be in good shape. It seems like the videos you want, and next thing you know, boom. And I can't imagine what it is with the video game going on. Bang, boom, beam, do, but I got to hit the. I mean, it's crazy. It's putting I don't think it's far from putting a loaded gun into people's hands,
right,
making sure it's all lined up in your, Russian roulette. But it's not really Russian roulette. That sucker's set up and you're clicking it. Come on. I mean, and the problem with all this is that it's impacting my safety,
right, because
they're going to hit me and kill me. Maybe I deserve to go, I guess. I don't know. But this is crazy stuff. And Elon could stop it immediately.
Well, they have so much good stuff going on. And as you've said repeatedly, they've got the over-the-air updates that they could tonight turn that off.
They could turn it off and say, look, you've got to be responsible doing this stuff. These aren't, driving down the road is not a video game. It's serious business. It's, read what Russ Mitchell has written. This is serious business. And it's supposed to be a privilege, not a right. Well, if you're misbehaving, you need to either have a note from your mother or a note from your 5-year-old child apologizing for your misbehavior and saying you're not going to do it again. Otherwise, you don't get the keys. You don't get to do it. Sorry. Because you're affecting my safety. It's affecting your safety.
You would think this might be under what you called the come on man section of the newsletter, but I guess this is too serious to put there.
It's too serious to put in the come on man. I put come on Elon. Come on Elon, you're a great guy. You've done great things. Look, you did another 97 landings of SpaceX, recovery of boosters. That's like fantastic. And all this other stuff, geez, clean it up.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition. Thank you to our sponsor, the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF. The ticker symbol for the ETF is MOTO, and more info is available at motoetf.com. You can find us at smartdrivingcar.com, on Anchor FM, Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, Google, Spreaker, wherever you turn to for podcasts. Smart speakers can play us too. You can find my tech reports at techstination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alain Kornhauser. Thanks for listening or watching. Please stay safe and have a great weekend.
Yes, and have a great weekend. And we've had a great week here in New Jersey. I think we're serious about doing something really good for this technology, and I hope people begin to take us seriously and come help us here.